What up, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys episode number 20 in my entire DVD and Blu-ray collection. We are still rolling along with the DVDs. This is a series in which I take you guys through my entire collection, talk about each title in my collection a little bit, and let's continue it on here. We have Stephen King's Pet Sematary. This is one of the best Stephen King adaptations. It's so good. It really has one of the most powerful scenes in a film that I've ever experienced. It really is just truly a death blow to your soul. It just is this crushing moment, and it's done so well, and you really dread that scene, and after you first see it, it sticks with you. This film actually scared me quite a bit. The famous Zelda scene is one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen in my life. This film, although it is really good, it's a very depressing film. The ending is very mean-spirited. It just has a very sour feel to it, and I like it for that reason, but at the same time I can't watch it all the time for that reason because it's depressing. It will depress me when watching it. I thought about upgrading to the Blu-ray, but I'm not really ready to yet. I don't really upgrade a whole lot, but this is one that I have considered a few times. I really do like this cover as well. I've always kind of liked this cover. So that's Pet Sematary. After that, we have a double feature here, The Relic and Pet Sematary 2. I obviously bought this for Pet Sematary 2, but The Relic, it's an okay creature feature from the 90s. I know that there are some fans of it. I personally don't care for it that much, and I think it's partly due to this release, which was a co-release from Paramount and Lionsgate, distributed by Lionsgate, and the picture quality is not the greatest on The Relic. It's actually dark and fuzzy, and I think that's always kind of took me out of the film a little bit. This is the only time I ever seen the film was in this DVD set, so I don't know if it's the film itself or this release, but I'll put money that it is this release. And then Pet Sematary 2 is kind of the opposite of the first one, where the first one is this downbeat film. Pet Sematary 2 is a lot more fun. It's a lot more 90s teen type movie, not in the vein of like Scream or anything, but it's just a funner movie. It's more upbeat and a just a little fun horror romp. Edward Furlong, I've always liked him in this film. I've always really liked Pet Sematary 2 as well. It's nowhere near as good as the first one as a film, but it definitely is a lot more fun than the first film. And the same director actually directed Pet Sematary 1 and 2. It was a woman. Her name's escaping me. But I always found that odd because tonally they're completely different movies. But Pet Sematary 2 is one that is great to watch during the October season, like this season going on right now, because it does have this Halloween vibe to it, and there is a few scenes where they're dressed up in costumes and stuff. That's really cool. After that, we have Phantasm, this old Anchor Bay edition. These films are screaming for a Blu-ray release. I don't know if we'll see one anytime soon, but hopefully when Phantasm 5 comes out, we could see some sort of Sphere box set. That'd be so awesome. Phantasm is a true love of mine. It's one of the films that I constantly go back to. It's one of the films that really got me into horror, and it is really my first film that I've seen that wasn't your typical narrative. This one was a nightmare logic film, and growing up, I really didn't get it, and there's certain things I still don't get about it, but I do love it. I just love it, and I loved it back then, and it always kind of just stuck with me throughout the years, even Phantasm 2 more so. But I grabbed this when I seen it come out on DVD, $20, and I was like, I have to have it. I bought it, and it's been in my collection ever since. It's one of the earlier titles that I have in my collection. It's before I actually started collecting, where I just picked up things here and there, and Phantasm is so good. I love it. The tall man, boy, all that stuff, man. Then we have Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, and this one is good as well. It's not the best, but I think it's a fun Phantasm film. I'm actually surprised the last time I watched it, which was during the 22 Shots episode way back, like episode 10 or something, which was the Phantasm franchise, and I was surprised to see the amount of comedy that's in it. I didn't really expect that. I didn't really remember that. But this one, continues the mythology of the tall man, continues the mythology of the spheres and all the things in the Phantasm movies. I've always said that Coscarelli can make characters out of inanimate objects, or just non-human things, like the car. The car is a character itself. Love these films. Phantasm 3 is another cool one as well. Then, of course, we got to round it off with Phantasm 4 Oblivion. One thing that I always loved about Phantasm 4 Oblivion was how they incorporated the IV, the Roman numeral for 4, into Oblivion. I thought that was just genius. Looks so cool. Love it. Phantasm 4 is one that I didn't really care for growing up, but I've really learned to appreciate and love it. I actually think it's pretty good, and I didn't growing up, so I don't know really what's changed. Not much happens in the film, but at the same time, it is a fitting wrap up to the series, and it was filmed on quite a low budget and reused all these elements from the first film that they weren't able to use in the original film, and I thought that they created an awesome story using these old pieces of footage. It really is truly cool how they did that. After that, we have The Phantom of the Opera. This is the 1924 version of The Phantom of the Opera. I like it. It stars Lon Chaney. I don't really love silent films. I've only seen a handful of them. The Phantom's Carriage is probably my favorite, and this film is, I would say lesser than that. Out of the three main ones that I could remember seeing, Nosferatu, The Phantom's Carriage, and The Phantom of the Opera, I definitely like The Phantom of the Opera the least out of those ones. I've now seen 3 versions of The Phantom of the Opera, but this is not the worst version that I've seen. It's my second favorite, and it's a good movie. It's hard to get into those silent films because of the breaks. I don't really like the title cards. They always kind of take me out of the film a little bit. But it's a great horror film, great made historic film. After that, we have Phobic. This one was a film, I think there was a dude who was suffering from agoraphobia. Cool concept, poor execution, very forgettable. I don't really remember much about it. I think I gave it, a 3 or 4, so just not really a film that you really want to seek out and pick up. It's not very good. After that, we have Pieces. Somebody actually sent me this in the mail, and it has like writing on the case. I've always wanted to switch this case out, but I never have. I don't know how many versions of Pieces there are, but I'm sure there's a better version than the Diamond Entertainment version, and this is actually a rated R version, which I didn't realize. I love this film. It's a good time. We covered it on the podcast. Great gore. Not very well made in terms of story, but it is a slasher film with balls, and that's what I love about it. After that, we have Piggy. I picked this up at Walmart a while ago, and I have not watched it, so it's still actually sealed. I have not opened it. I like the slipcover. I've heard mediocre things about it, so I'm really not rushing to check it out. I have so much other stuff to see. This is one of those films that I wish that I would have got to it when it came out, because it could have made my, in preparation for my top 10 of the year, and it kind of flew under the radar, so I missed it. So then I'm probably not going to watch it anytime soon. After that, we have Piranha. This is another film that I grabbed for about $22 on DVD. The remake had been in the theater, it was just coming out, and I seen this at Walmart, and I just fell in love with the lenticular cover, and I was like, gotta have it. And I had heard of this film, and I had heard of Roger Corman, and I've heard of the cult classics and all that stuff that Shout Factory was doing back then, but this is before I was really into collecting, so I wasn't familiar with all the ins and outs of the collecting world. I didn't even really know what Shout Factory was, or the Roger Corman collection, and for that matter, I really didn't know Roger Corman at the time, but this film definitely helped me introduce me to that world, and I do like Piranha. I like this edition a lot too. There's a lot of special features on here. But Piranha's fun, and it's a good time, and I love this cover. This cover is so cool. Sometimes I'll just pick it up and just do this. Just keep doing this, because it looks really cool. I can see it in the camera. Alright, then we have Piranha 2: The Spawning. This was the sequel to the original Piranha or the sequel to the TV remake. I'm not really sure. I find it amazing that there are 5 Piranha films, though. It's one of those franchises like Carrie, where you're like, wait a minute, Carrie's a franchise? There's 4 freaking Carrie films? And it's like Piranha, you never really think that there's that many, but somehow they managed to make 4 films out of the Piranha series. Or 5 films out of the Piranha series. I don't know about this one. James Cameron directed. I haven't watched it, but I'm actually really excited to check this one out eventually, just because it just seems like one of those oddities that I want to see. So, Piranha 2. After that, we have The Plague. This one was Clive Barker inspired, or it was an adaptation of a Clive Barker novel. Not very good. It was kind of average. There was decent things about it, but I really didn't care for it that much. Interesting concept. I love the concept. All the children like under a certain age die, and then it's something like that. I don't really remember it, but cool concept. Just it's not a very good movie. I don't really recommend grabbing it other than for curiosity. You know, Clive Barker and stuff like that. I think he might have actually produced this film too. After that, we have one that Mood sent me, and that is Plan 9 from Outer Space. This is, you know, that film that everybody talks about being the worst film ever made. It's obviously not the worst film ever made, not even close, but it's one of the best so bad it's good films, because it is so unintentionally bad. And I love unintentionally bad. That's my favorite kind of bad. I don't like the bad that's trying to be bad. Those films just don't work for me. The unintentionally bad kind, like Troll and Troll 2 and Plan 9 from Outer Space, those are my cup of tea. And this one was fun. It's probably not one that I'll revisit anytime soon. People have like an obsession or a real strong love for this, and I couldn't really watch it a lot. It's, you know, as fun as it was, it's still not something that I'll go back to. After that, we have Play Hooky, and I love this cover, but I have not watched this one yet. It is a Wild Eye releasing. I really need to you know, check out some of these Wild Eyes, because I do own a lot of them, and a lot of them are still sealed, but I've just been so busy with all my other projects that I just haven't got around to them, and I really feel bad about that, so I should do that soon. Poltergeist. What can I say about Poltergeist? I've never been as into it as a lot of people. You know, a lot of people, this is one of the best horror films ever made, which it is one of the best horror films ever made, but it's not really my favorite in terms of what my favorite horror films are. I acknowledge that it's great, but it's just not one that I go back to a lot, and I don't really know why. I love the Steven Spielberg feel to it, and, you know, Tobe Hooper directed it, but it's just, I don't know, it's just something that there's a little bit of a disconnect with me. I don't know, I really have never been able to pinpoint why I don't love it as much as I probably should. It's definitely a good movie, it's definitely a great movie, but if I'm going to watch this or Amityville, I'll probably take Amityville, which is odd because Amityville is a little more slow than this. Zelda Rubinstein, awesome, I love her in this film, so Poltergeist. Then we have Poltergeist 2 and 3. I've actually never seen any of these, and that's kind of shocking a little bit because it is a popular series. It's still sealed here. I got it in that MGM double pack here. It was funny, after I picked this up, they released the Blu-ray double pack and solo editions, and I was like, motherfucker. Because I paid like, I didn't pay $7 for it, I had it at a discount, but I still paid around what that double pack was going for, so that bums me out a little bit. I'm actually super curious to check these out, though, because I know that people like them, and they seem like something that I would like. I find them very interesting, so I definitely want to eventually check these out. Maybe do it on the podcast with the remake as well. Then we have Population 436. I actually really like this one. I forget the guy's name, but he is also in Cabin Fever, maybe? I think it might be Cabin Fever. It might not be Cabin Fever. He's in something that I've seen before. And Fred Durst? That's very odd. That is very odd. But Population 436, it's about a town, a creepy town that always has the same population. Not the best film in the world, kind of plot holy and stuff, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was a decent fun time. Then we have Premonition, which I actually seen it in the theater, oddly enough. I don't really remember much about it. I don't think I've ever watched this DVD. I picked it up used somewhere. I don't really know about it. I think it's sort of like the Final Destination type, like Premonition. This woman sees like her husband's death, and I don't know. This cover's awful though. After that, we have Priest, which I've never watched. This, based on this cover, it instantly makes me not want to watch it. And it's because it looks like an action movie, which I do not like action horror. It looks like an Underworld or Resident Evil, over-stylized, stuff like that. Not my cup of tea, probably a ton of CGI. I will eventually see it, but not right now. And finally, for this part, we have Prom Night, put out by Echo Bridge Home Entertainment. I've debated for a long time about picking up that Synapse Blu-ray release because I don't like Prom Night. I've never liked it. I've always found it overrated. But I have heard people say that the Synapse Blu-ray kind of helps you rediscover the film. You might enjoy it a little bit more. And I might want to do that. So I might pick up the Synapse release of Prom Night because right now it's Echo Bridge. I mean, the quality of this disc is pretty bad anyway. Yeah, I don't really like Prom Night. I don't know what it is about it. It's just averagely boring. So yeah, that is it for this part, guys. I'll see you guys in part 21. Peace.